Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, which as I've told you many a time is the Swedish craft beer capital. There's some great breweries up there. For this one we're going to go to a brewery that I've kind of tried before and I kind of haven't. I'll explain why in a minute. So we're going to have a look at a beer from DuckPond Brewing today, and this brewery was previously known as Brewing. So a few months ago you would have seen me review the Lead Singer Syndrome IPA, and this, Brewing were very well regarded for the New England IPAs. But this particular beer is called the Boogie IPA, a New England IPA, again coming in at 6.4% ABV. So I picked this beer up in the Systembolaget in Gothenburg, and I thought, oh, this is another Gothenburg brewery that I haven't heard of, because there must be about 30 or 40 breweries in the kind of city itself. So I picked this one up thinking it was a completely new brewery. I was struggling to find stuff on it, but then I found a beernews.se article, and it was saying that Brewing had changed their name. So this brewery is essentially the continuation of Mikrofon, who, like I said, are quite well regarded when it comes to New England IPAs. So really curious to try this beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So yeah, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the brewery before we open up the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brewing and DuckPond Brewing. I'll change the tags and stuff so that these kind of merge together. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review, particularly if you're watching in Gothenburg, because there probably are a few that I haven't heard of yet, so that would be greatly appreciated. But it's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is massively appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about DuckPond Brewing then, so as I mentioned earlier, on to my brewing notes. DuckPond Brewing were previously known as Brewing, and this company is the brainchild of Nicholas Arcevic, who is originally from Örebro, that is of Serbian origin, as you can maybe tell by his name. But he is the singer and songwriter in the band Millencolin, which has been making music since around 1993. They're sort of kind of punk, metal-y type thing actually. Their music's pretty decent actually. But the band was originally based in Örebro, and they took a break from touring and their music activities, and during that time Nicola moved to Gothenburg. So in 2013 he began homebrewing with his friend Christian Silva while he was studying international marketing in Skövde, and the two were brewing very small, kind of 20-litre batches, and then Nicola went to Berlin for a 2-week brewing course to kind of gain a little bit more skill. But the two then started the company together, and for a while it was based in Nicola's house, and they were brewing 200-litre batches. They changed their name in the summer of 2019, and they've been working to increase both their brewing output and the international sales of the brewery over the last few years. I think they're selling their beers maybe in Norway at the moment. I'm not sure if they are going further afield than that, but you can get these beers internationally now, which is quite good. As of November 2019 though, when I'm filming this review for you, there have been 7 beers released under the DuckPond Brewing name, and I think I don't know if some of the Mikrofon Brewing ones are still available, but I think hopefully they do re-release them under the DuckPond Brewing name. I'm not sure if there's legal issues with bringing some of these beers back out and things, but like I said, this brewery is very highly regarded when it comes to the hazy New England style IPAs, and I'm looking forward to trying some more from them too. It's interesting to see that this basically is Brewing, because I've been wondering why I hadn't seen anything from them in a few months. Normally you get the things in the local and Smosik things. Apparently the main motivation behind changing the name was that Brewing is quite difficult for non-Swedes or non-Nordics, I guess, to say actually. So I do wonder though why they completely changed the name. Why not just call it the Gothenburg Microphone Brewery or something like that, or call it, the Millencolin Microphone Brewery? That would have been quite interesting. But yeah, interesting to try another beer from Mikrofon essentially, and hopefully it's a good one. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different beers that they've done. And do check out million, Colin, actually. I need to listen to them a bit more to fully appreciate what's going on. I'm a big, massive metalhead, of course, so punk is a little bit different, but some of it I can appreciate, of course. But yeah, let's have a little taste of this beer then and see how we get on. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is kind of minimalist and modern, if you like. I do like that, actually. Of course, my friend Peter over at the Clueless Drinker, he's a little bit more clued up on his artwork and things, so I'm sure he'd be able to describe what exact style and stuff it is a bit better than I. I'm artistically illiterate, but very literate when it comes to music. But there you can see, there is the DuckPond brewing symbol. So without further ado, we'll get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. A little 330ml can. It's been in the fridge for a little bit, so we'll just invert it and get probably some of the oats and stuff have settled out of this, but we'll get it out and into the glass and see how we get on. So yeah, 6.4%, this is kind of standard for one of these Gothenburg IPAs. You know, you can, it's difficult to say, you know, is the Gothenburg or Swedish West Coast IPA, is it a different sub-style from the New Englands themselves? I'm not quite sure, but who cares as long as it's a good beer, that's the main thing. So yeah, oh, my glass must be very clean, I've got lots of carbonation sticking to the side of it there. But as you would expect from a New England IPA, Hazy IPA, this one's poured a lovely, quite bright yellowy colour. You can see there is a degree of haze to this one. It's not the murkiest of beers that you're going to come across right enough, and that's probably because it's, you know, as I say, 6.4%. The higher you go up the alcohol scale, the more malt you're going to have in the beer, the more oats, and thus the more haze you're going to have. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. There's about a quarter finger of a frothy, perfect white head. That's fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. You could see there was a good little bit of carbonation sticking towards the side of the glass, but now that it's kind of settled out, you can see it's just a few little bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall, it's a pretty nice looking beer, I have to say, so pretty much what you would expect from this style. So let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. It's quite interesting, actually. So yeah, straight away with this beer, it's got a little touch of a kind of biscuity note to it. You can smell some of the smooth white bready wheaty notes in there, definitely some of the oaty creaminess coming out, but you've also got a little bit of a biscuity note to this too, which is kind of interesting. You don't find too many that have a little bit of sweetness to it, and of course that's one of the things I've always said about the New England IPAs. With this particular style, you struggle to go above sort of 8–8.5% with these, because after that you really need some kind of sweetness to it rather than the smoothness to cover the alcohol. So it's an interesting point to make about this, but it comes across pretty nicely, this one. The malt base in this is a little bit different, but I think it works very well. So yeah, white bready kind of smoothness in there, a little bit of an oaty creaminess, and some nice biscuity notes too, which is good. Yeah, I like that. On the hoppy side of things then, you've got a little bit of a kind of a little touch of an earthy quality in there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of mosaic in this one, to be honest with you, just from the way the earthiness is. It gives you some lovely sort of tangerine-y, orangey characters, mosaic, but it does have a little distinctive earthiness. But you can also get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity out of this one, and some grassiness. And in fact, I would say that it's mainly the green side of the hops in this one are mainly a little bit grassy and earthy. But you do get, the more you smell of it, actually, in fairness, the more you get the kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer. So that's kind of an interesting point to make about this one. So yeah, one of the sweeter malt bases in a New England IPA that I've come across. In terms of the fruitiness of the beer then, and I would say the more you smell of this, the more kind of sweet and biscuity it becomes. But yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a kind of mango-y note to this, and I would say it does come across as being a little bit orangey. There is something really smooth and sweet about this beer. The more I'm finding, the more I smell it, the more the kind of biscuit and the oats are coming out of this. That's quite an interesting point to make about this beer. But definitely a little bit of a mosaic-y, kind of tangerine orange coming out of this one. A little bit of a kind of mango, apricot-y, papaya type thing as well. And that's quite nice, to be honest with you. It almost smells a little bit, if you ever homebrew, There is something about this beer, it smells a little bit like the malt after you've, you know, taken all the sugars out of it. There's a little bit of that kind of aroma coming out of this beer, which is quite interesting, almost like a kind of spent malt quality, that's interesting. I've never had that out of a New England IPA, but you do find the more that you smell this, the more the biscuity notes and the more the kind of creamy oats come out of it. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this beer turns out. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. As I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma, but we're going to taste this beer now. This one is the Boogie IPA, a New England IPA coming in at 6.4% ABV. From DuckPond Brewing, based in Gothenburg in Sweden. One of the other gypsy breweries, I guess you could say, around the Gothenburg area. Let's get stuck into this. Slanja, skål. Ooh, that's really nice actually. This is one of the smoothest New England IPAs I've come across in Sweden actually. That's really pretty nice. And I mean, you know, I have said on the channel recently I've been missing the West Coast IPAs, and to be honest I've been missing a bit of variety when it comes to these. There's so many breweries now just doing these kind of hazy juice bomb sort of things, but when you come across something like this that is a little bit different, you know, it sort of almost just restores your faith a little bit. But no doubt in the next video I'll still say I miss the West Coast IPAs, because I do, you know. So we're Scottish, we're just, yeah, we hate everything, you know. But you know, this is a very, very smooth New England IPA. It's one of the smoothest ones I've come across in Sweden actually, so thumbs up to DuckPond and Mikrofon for this. They've pulled off a nice beer here. Try this one because it is a little bit different from what you're going to find otherwise. Yeah, I can see why this brewery, if they're producing stuff like this, I can see why people are going a bit crazy about them actually. So yeah, let's try and break this down a little bit then. So straight away in the middle of your palate you're going to get that lovely white bready, wheaty kind of quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue, and it's very, very smooth in this one. I've been recently reviewing some Trillium and Treehouse beers. This one is, it reminds me a bit more of the Treehouse beers, but it's got a little bit more sweetness to it than they have, which is interesting. So yeah, the smoothness you get out of this beer in the middle of your palate is absolutely beautiful. That's the really unique point about this one. It's almost like you've got that wheaty base, which again, it's within itself is very smooth, but on top of that, it's like the oaty creaminess you get out of this beer is it really spreads across the whole palate. Usually the oats I find kind of sort of congregate in the middle of your tongue, but you can feel the whole smoothness across the middle of your palate here, which is good. It doesn't say on the side that it's got lactose or anything on it, because, you know, usually, I mean, they could. I mean, the other thing that could be in here would be a little bit of oatmeal, because often in stouts they use that to smooth it out, and I'd wonder perhaps if they're using oatmeal and oats in this one. That's another way that they could probably get this kind of flavour out of this beer actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if this has some oatmeal in it actually. I remember a brewery that used to do that with their IPAs. That was Benchwarmers in Helsingborg. They had that one, it was called the Gay Horse or something like that, and that was an oatmeal IPA. It was a really interesting beer, and there's a few things about this one remind me of that. That was maybe about a year ago that I had that. But yeah, the smoothness in the middle of the palate here is really, really very nice. So I wouldn't, as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if there's oatmeal and oats in this. But if you go to the very centre of your palate, you'll find a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality there, and of course that will be the flavour that's covering the alcohol. Any biscuity, sort of slightly brown sugary flavours you get in a beer tend to be covering up the booziness, especially in New England IPAs. It's that biscuity note, it's the booziness of the beer. But yeah, the malt base in this, it's remarkably smooth and quite simple actually, but the New England IPAs, the malt bases aren't the most complex, but if you can get them smooth and things like this, you are really onto a winner. So kudos to DuckPond. I wanted to say Mikrofon kudos to DuckPond for pulling off this malt base. This is a really kind of interesting one actually. So in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, back corners of the palate, there is a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but the earthiness that comes out here, it's not quite as strong, if you like, as it would be for Mosaic. But the thing you have to remember is that the bitterness and stuff like that that you get out of these beers. It's all about when you add the hops in the brew. And you know, if you add hops very early on, it's bitterness, you get the big IBU count. But if you add them in the last sort of half an hour of the boil, you get the trade-off between IBUs and sort of flavour and aroma and things like that. Definitely the fruity side of this beer leans towards the orangey side of things. Could it be Mandarina Bavaria or something? There is almost a little bit of a kind of German noble quality or something to the earthiness that this beer has. But yeah, as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you can feel the earthiness just smoothing out a little bit. You've got a nice little bit of floral aromaticity there towards the front corners of the palate, and round the very front curve of the tongue it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy. And then behind the front curve of the tongue, of course, you've got that oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. Yeah, I do like this. This is nice. Try this beer for yourself and see how you get on. But yeah, in the fruity side of things then, it's interesting because if you go towards the back of the fruity side of the beer, there is a little bit of a kind of darker tropical fruit there, the sort of passion fruity, grapefruity side of things. But then as you move further forward, I really think this beer becomes a little bit more sort of orangey and tangerine and things like that. And there's maybe a little hint of a kind of limey note or something. There's a sort of lemon, limey, gooseberry kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little touch of citra in here, to be honest with you, because there is something, there is a sort of undertone, pardon me, of like a mango, mango thing. The other hop that this could be, come to think of it, would be Azaka, because Azaka can give you the oranges, but also a little bit of a kind of pineapple-y quality too, so that could be another one that's in here. It's becoming more popular, that actually. But yeah, the fruity flavours in this one for me, there is a little bit of that at the back, there's a little bit of that darker tropical fruit note, the passion fruity, grapefruity sort of thing. As you come further forward, maybe a little bit of mango, but then on the real kind of very front of the tongue, it's more orangey and tangerine, to be honest with you. So I like how that goes together. This is a really nice New England IPA, and you'll notice that the further you go into the aftertaste, you get some of those almost oatmeal-y, oaty qualities. They linger there and give the beer just a little touch of sweetness. But you've also got the juicy fruitiness lingering there too. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, let's talk about that. This is it's a mid-bodied beer. It's kind of sitting right in the middle of that as well. It's the mid-level of the mid-bodied beers. The carbonation is very smooth. Overall, I would say this is a really creamy and very smooth New England IPA. It's got a little bit of an oiliness to it as well, which helps the orangey flavours come out of this one. So that's another thing. This beer really ticks the boxes for me, because it's an orangey IPA. I've been a sucker for those ever since like Nebuchadnezzar from Omnipollo. I love my orangey IPAs. In terms of the hoppy, bitter side of things with the beer, I'd say we're talking maybe about 25 IBUs with this one. By no means is this beer going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. As I've stated quite a lot, this malt base is really nice and very smooth. It evolves to be a little bit sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste. You get a little bit of that biscuity note as well, and some of the creaminess of the oats starts to become that little bit sweet too, and the fruitiness is juicy, but at the same time it has a little bit of an oiliness which helps bring out the orangey flavour, but there's an element of tropical quality to it as well. So overall, this is a really quite interesting New England IPA. Takes a different approach. As I'd say, I suspect there's a bit of oatmeal in this one, so if you liked what do you call a gay horse? It's called the gay horse beer, if you like, from Benchwarmers Brewing in Helsingborg. This is the closest. That's the closest one I can think of to this. This is a really nice take on the style, and it makes me very curious to see what they're going to offer in the future, actually. So thumbs up to DuckPond Brewing for this one. They've pulled off a really quite nice beer. So let's leave it at that. Check this beer out for yourself. I think this one is really pretty solid. If there's a lot of good IPAs in Gothenburg, so take that as you will. This is one of the nicest ones I've had in recent times, I would say. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers from DuckPond Brewing and Mikrofronbryggeriet are, and I'm sure we'll return to these guys at some point in the near future. This one is the Boogie IPA, coming in at 6.4% from DuckPond Brewing, one of the various gypsy breweries you'll find around Gothenburg. Slanja, skål, cheers. Make sure you check out this beer, check out my social media, and check out some of the other breweries around Gothenburg. Slanja, skål, cheers, catch you soon.